Yo, what's good, gang? It's the Dope Guy, and I am back with another video, big dog. Hope you guys are all doing well out there, because I'm doing alright. Here I am spinning the block with content for y'all, man, on my soul. Also, happy Juneteenth to everybody out there. You know what I'm saying? There's people who are probably at work. There's people who got the off day. Shout out to all y'all, man. We celebrating our freedom today, man. Much love, respect to everybody out there. But yeah, but today's video was requested by a few of y'all, and this is called Geography Now, South Africa. Shout out to all my people in South Africa. Much love, respect, man. Definitely on my bucket list to visit. Definitely one of them places I want to visit, man. Just getting involved with the culture, getting in tune with my peoples. Much love, respect to all y'all out there, man. Y'all been embracing me reacting to these videos, giving me suggestions, all that. I greatly appreciate it. You know what I'm saying? Here I am spinning the block with content for y'all. Y'all already know the vibe, so I cannot wait to hop into this video. But before we do that, subscribe to the Dope Guy. That way to get notifications every time I upload. And find me right here on Snapchat and Instagram right across the bottom of the screen. So with that being said, I'm not gonna hold y'all much longer because y'all already know let's go, big dog. Let's get to it. Yes, sir.
Let's see if I got this. Ikaka lazi kika krika kwaze kwa kawaka ukokoka ikaka la kapaleka ikini la tibalika la kaula ukokoko.
Okay.
It's time to learn geography now! Hey everybody, I'm your host Barbs. Once again, this shirt was made by Geography Ruba from UnityShirtsShop.com.
I like that shirt. Shirt fire.
Cool handmade African flag logo shirts. Oh, and she specifically made this one with the Geography Now logo in the back for me. Oh, thank you, Ruba. Oh, and don't forget, you can also get Geography Now merchandise at geographynow.com. Just a heads up. Anyway, South Africa. This is a big one. South Africa is kind of a big deal in Africa in general. And you know what else is a big deal? Having an actual South African in the episode. Say hi to Catherine from
Yeah, it makes sense to do that.
Come on in.
My people there are just
Shout out
the
to
best
you.
people in the world, and it will always be home, no matter where I live.
All right, well, you ready to get into this episode, Catherine?
Yes.
All right, let's do it.
So South Africa has always played a historically imperative role when it came to expeditions from early traders, and you can probably guess why.
For one, the country lies at the bottom of the continent of Africa, bi-coastal between the Atlantic and Indian Oceans. In fact, the southernmost point of the African continental mainland, Cape Agulhas, has a cool spot you can check out with a plaque and a giant Africa map monument. From there, they are bordered by 6 other countries. Don't forget little Eswatini and the entirely enclaved country of Lesotho.
Botswana,
From there, the country is divided
Zimbabwe.
into 9 provinces. The country doesn't have one official capital, but rather 3. Pretoria, which holds the executive branch, including the home of the president, as well as most of the embassies for international diplomats. The legislative branch is held in Cape Town, where you can find the national parliament, and second largest city in the country. And Bloemfontein, near the center of the country, hosts the judicial branch and the Supreme Court of Appeal. Some say technically Johannesburg could also be considered maybe a 4th capital, because it has the constitutional court, and the city has a huge level of significance as the largest and busiest city of the country, but you decide. Johannesburg also hosts the biggest and busiest airport in South Africa, OR Tambo International, whereas the 2nd and 3rd largest airports lie respectively in the 2nd and 3rd largest cities, Cape Town and Durban, King Shaka International. The country has a wide network of roadways and the most well-developed rail system in all of Africa. Johannesburg being the main central hub that spiderwebs all the other main lines that stretch into every other province and abroad into neighboring countries. South Africa also boasts incredible seafaring infrastructure with the 2nd busiest container port in all of Africa after Port Said in Egypt, the port of Durban, which provides 60% of all South Africa's shipping revenue. Finally, South Africa's island or insular region are mostly confined to small patches.
I think a subscriber just mentioned that he was watching one of my videos from Durban, South Africa. Shout out to you, big dog.
Along the coast, like the Port Elizabeth Bay or Robben Island just north of Cape Town, famous for being the spot where Nelson Mandela was imprisoned. However, if we include the entire domain belonging to South Africa, then Prince Edward and Marion Island, which belong to the Western Cape Province, are the actual southernmost points of the African continent. These islands are mostly uninhabited, with the exception of a meteorological station and bunkers for scientists. Yeah, and the southernmost point on Marion Island, it's called Cape Hooker. Literally, it is.
So, okay, you're probably wondering, why isn't Lesotho part of South Africa?
Yeah, why?
Well, long story short, it was kind of like...
UK! Okay, if you help me kick his ass, I'll be one of your protectorates. You got a deal. I got him. Woo!
Hey, your king died, and we want to make you a part of the Cape Colony.
Oh, no, I'll just stick with protectorate.
Well, we don't like that.
Okay, well, I guess that means we'll spend the next 14 years resisting and giving you a headache.
Deal. We give up. We'll give you guys self-rule as a separate crown colony.
You guys suck, but whatever. It's better than being part of the Cape Colony.
South Africa is now going to become its own country, and we want you to be in it.
Oh, hell no.
Oh, come on. We're going to have very tense, racially divisive apartheid policies that will disenfranchise...
You can always appreciate good comedic humor, especially when you get a geography lesson on South Africa or any other country that they do topics on. So it's always good to have some type of comedic humor.
Your people.
Okay, how do you see that as conducive to the benefit of my people?
Yeah, I don't. All right, well, enjoy yourself, fool.
And from there, it pretty much sealed the deal that Lesotho would never join South Africa. Anyway,
Now here's the interesting thing. Even though South Africa is a republic, the constitution includes the traditional leadership clause, which recognizes the certain indigenous monarchs.
yeah, today there are about 13 monarchs from 9 different ethno-linguistic groups and tons of other smaller paramounts and high chiefs in South Africa.
Although they do not have direct legislative power to the republic, they have a high degree of regional influence and involvement in communal affairs.
Sadly, shortly before filming this episode, Zulu King Goodwill Zwelithini passed away. He ruled for 5 decades and had a huge role of significance in the Zulu community.
Wow.
50
he
years
was
of
a king.
ruling.
Well,
That's-
in any case,
shout out
let's
to
talk
him.
about some of the top notable spots, and let's have South African influencer and travel writer Gofari do it for us. Gofari, take it away.
Hey everyone, I'm Gofari, a South African travel blogger, and I'm going
Shout out
to
to
talk
you.
you through the notable sites to visit in South Africa. So I'm going to talk through the cultural and the man-made sites. We have Blokrant's Bridge, which is the highest bridge bungee in the world.
Jesus.
We also have many theme parks like Gold Reef City, the Palace of the Lost City, and Ushaka Marine World. Ponte Tower, District 6 Museum, the world's largest pineapple, the Big
That's
Hole,
fire.
Orlando Towers, Baobab Tree Bar. We have 10 UNESCO World Heritage Sites, such as Mapungubwe and also Robben Island, which is where Nelson Mandela was in prison. Thank you!
Thanks, Gofari. You are awesome. Check out her Instagram and pages in the links in the description below.
Go
Yeah,
far.
South
Shout out to
Africa's
you.
natural wonders, you won't even know where to begin with. Like, they have the largest cave system in Africa, the Congo Caves, Borgslack's potholes, the tallest waterfall in Africa, and it just goes on and on.
Whoa, whoa. Hold your horses, Catherine. That's the nature stuff. You're going to... We're going to talk about that in the next segment. The next segment, which
Okay. Okay.
So, South Africa. One word, blessed.
For one, the country is a low-risk malaria nation, and most areas in the wilderness don't even require medication. They even have their own unique biome called Fynbos, the smallest and the richest of the 6 floral kingdom in the world,
Oh,
only
damn.
found in southern Africa with over 6,000 endemic plant species, including the national flower, which is the king protea. When I think of South Africa, that's what I see in my mind always.
Specifically, Fynbos.
Specifically Fynbos, yes. It's also home to the rooibos plant where rooibos tea comes from, and that's
Rooibos.
my favorite tea.
Oh, it's a tea.
Yes. it's amazing.
I'm not a big fan of tea. I'm really not. Only when I don't feel great, but you know.
Overall, you literally can't find anywhere that looks like South Africa.
For one, the country is unlike any other nation in that it's not only the southernmost portion of the East African Rift, but the entire country is kind of split between a semicircle mountain range known as the Great Escarpment. It feeds into the tallest range, the Drakensberg Mountains, in the east, where you can find the tallest peak, Mafadi, shared with Lesotho. These mountains are also the source of the longest river in the country, the Orange River, which ends in the Atlantic Ocean. South Africa doesn't have many large natural lakes, and the majority of inland bodies of water are man-made reservoirs, the largest one being the Harip Dam, located in the center of the country. The largest natural freshwater lake, though, is speculated to be Sibai, part of KwaZulu-Natal's Greater St. Lucia Wetland Park on the east coast, a UNESCO heritage site. If you zoom out a little bit, you'll notice the Great Escarpment has these sharp, narrow, parallel wrinkles at the bottom. These are called the Cape Mountains, which are essentially leftover sediments smashed by contrasting tectonic activity long ago, when South Africa was connected to Argentina and Antarctica in the Gondwana supercontinent. Above these wrinkles, you have the Great Karoo, Namakaland, Bushmanland, and
Namakaland.
Calamari, which are dry, arid, rocky areas, sparsely populated and loaded with rich flora of succulent plants and minerals. If you
Okay.
move more east and north of the escarpment, you have the Eastern Midlands, KwaZulu-Natal coast, sweeping up to the Lowveld and the Limpopo Lowveld in the north. These are the most lush and green areas of South Africa and hold much of the arable land as well as nature and forest preserves. When you move inland, though, you get the Highvelds, the Bushveld, and Griqualand west, which are the arid savannas of South Africa. This is probably one of the most unique areas of South Africa because it is the site where 2 things happened. One, an enormous meteor hit this spot, creating the largest verified impact crater on
Damn,
Earth,
for
known as
real?
the Fredford Crater, extending over 300 kilometers wide. You can even see the dome from
Damn.
space at the town of Fredford. And 2, said meteor was supposedly the source of many minerals like gold and platinum that fed the land, which
Oh,
later
shit.
the inhabitants would subsequently discover and go crazy after in a mad gold rush and mining rush.
Now, although
Gold
South
and
Africa
platinum?
is the second largest economy in Africa after Nigeria, it is ranked the most industrialized Malaya is technologically advanced and economically diversified.
And although the country does have a wide income gap between the wealthy and poor, the middle class has been growing every year since the 90s.
Today, South Africa is one of the world's top platinum and chromium producer. They consistently rank in the top 10 producers of gold and diamonds as well.
And finally, the gold rush in
Witwatersrand
in 1886 pretty much established the country as a mineral powerhouse.
That's why it's only about 5% of the population is formally employed in farming.
This means they've shifted much of their economic activity towards other sectors like manufacturing, business, and finance.
Today, JSE Limited is the largest stock exchange in Africa, ranking 17th in the world with over trillions of dollars of investment revenue.
South Africa also boasts some of the best medical facilities in Africa and has the third largest hospital in the world.
Sadly, though, South Africa does have the highest population of people infected with HIV at over 7.5 million and fourth in the world per population ratio.
There's even a character on their version of Sesame Street who has HIV to help kids born with AIDS to cope. And finally, the country has a huge tourism industry, mostly in the nature areas. Speaking of nature, it's time for Gary Harlow to explain.
Third largest hospital. That's amazing.
That's the best I got. South Africa is home to over 20 national parks and dozens of nature reserves, the most famous and visited ones being the Table Mountain National Park and the largest one, Kruger National Park in the northeast. South Africa is ranked the 6th out of the 17 classified megadiverse countries in the world, 10th for plant species and 3rd for marine endemism. In fact, between May to July, the sardine run happens in which billions of sardines spawn in the cool waters of the Agulhas Bank, creating a feeding frenzy for all the ocean predators. Look at them go, chomping. Jaws. And there's over 850 bird species, including the national bird, the blue crane. But more interesting, South Africa and Namibia are the only 2 countries in Africa that host penguins. The endangered African or Cape penguin is unique in that it has pink glands above its eyes to help regulate body temperature, since South Africa is generally much warmer.
It's always good to know these things because you know what I'm saying, you don't go out looking for this type of information, but when it comes across your way, it's always good to take it in, bro.
The typical habitat for penguins, like, Antarctica. There's nearly 300 mammal species inhabiting the wilderness, including the national animal, the springbok. There's even an entire national...
Shout out to the Springboks, bro. Shout out to the South African team, the Springboks, the rugby team. Much love, respect. One of the most dominant teams I've ever covered when it comes to rugby. Yeah, some of y'all know. Some of y'all probably came from those rugby videos I've reacted to. You know what I'm saying? The South Africa Springboks.
Park dedicated to elephants in the south. And finally, South Africa is not only home to many animals, but also extinct animal fossils. The Karoo region has more dinosaur fossil sites than any other place in the country, and numerous dinos have been excavated. And speaking of dinos, I got a velociraptor. Wrap this up.
Thank you, Gary.
And speaking of wraps, it's time to end off the segment as we always do.
Whoa, what's going on? Oh.
Food! Alright, let's roll. South Africa has so many unique dishes, but one thing is guaranteed,
now we talking.
You will see meat on almost every menu. No shocker, they are the largest meat producer in Africa. In any case, here are some of the top dishes you guys suggested. Hoppenvorst, milk tart, frikadelle, bunny chow, cooked sisters, malva pudding, potjiekos, fat cakes, mopani worms, savory pies, Cape Malay
worms,
babua tea, biltong. The Western Cape province has some of the most refined wineries in the world, starting all the way back to 1659. And supposedly Route 62 is the longest wine route in the world, going over 850 kilometers long. And of course, many might argue the national dish would be braai, or South African style barbecue, cooked over wood flames.
Okay.
Oh, Noah, you're back. Okay, cool. Thanks, Noah.
And don't forget to get some burgers from Wimpy's and a rib meal from Steers on Wacky Wednesday. And
ooh, that look fire.
You go to Spur. Spur has the 2-for-1 special on Mondays.
And speaking of the people of South Africa, I think that means we should probably move on to the next segment. Now, I asked you guys, the South African geography, what it means to be South African. And here are some things you guys said.
Being South African is very nice because we have so many different types of traditional groups where everyone is celebrating.
We come from a beautiful country, we're full of cultural diversity, and of course, we truly epitomize the Rainbow Nation.
To be South African means to live in the most beautiful country in the world and to be part of the most vibrant and energetic group of people.
We're quite resilient when it comes to the challenges we face, as well. They have got a strong sense of pride.
Living in a post-apartheid era, I
Salute,
feel
bro.
that we have a lot of unity,
Salute,
we have a
little
lot
bro.
of strength, and we are really heroes for the challenges that we face every week and that we overcome, and we always find a way to remain in the game and strong.
It's an absolute miracle. If you got to see the 2019 Rugby World Cup in Japan and seeing how diverse and incredible South African athletes were,
Yep.
it's ever changing. It's always evolving. So many different art movements and interesting things going on. It's an incredible thing.
I am especially appreciative of the fact that I don't have to travel far to experience something different. Each of its 9 provinces are so unique in their landscapes, in their cultures, in their flavors. So it's that's what makes it such a fun and exciting place to be.
Thank you guys. What about you, Catherine?
Well, I would say that every weekend is a jol.
Joel, what was it?
Jol.
What is that?
So if you're gonna go for a jol, you're gonna go for a party, and it's gonna be like a really insane night. Like if you're gonna go jol, you're gonna go like really hard that night.
Okay.
Oh,
Now,
really?
as you
That's
will
what
find
the-
out,
okay.
South Africa is very diverse in terms of ethno-linguistic people groups.
Let's start with a pie chart, shall we?
The country has about 60 million people and has the largest white and Asian populations and percentages per
Wow.
population in all of Africa. The country is made up predominantly of black Africans at about 80%.
80%.
However, keep in mind, of this 80%, there are many groups. Zulus and Xhosa are the largest ones at about 23% and 16%, followed by the Northern Sotho and Tswana at about 9% and 8%. And from there, there's a bunch of other groups, but we'll talk
Okay.
about them later in this episode. For the remaining 20% of the population, the white South Africans and coloreds have almost identical populations at somewhere around 9% each. Keep in mind, though, amongst the white population, about 60% of them are Afrikaners and 35% are English, the remaining 5 or so percent being other Europeans. The rest of the population is mostly made up of Asians like Indians, Malays, Chinese, and so on.
So the use of
I
South
didn't know
African
that. I didn't know
languages
that Asians lived in South Africa. I did not know that. It's kind of crazy. I didn't know that.
They
Shout out to
also
y'all.
use the M plug outlet, and they also drive on the left side of the road.
Left, former British colony.
Mm-hmm.
And also, somewhere around 80% of the country is Christian, mostly adhering to Protestantism.
So first off, let's clarify some confusing distinctions.
So you heard that word, coloreds. Okay, we Americans might have some horrible pre-civil rights flashbacks when we hear that word, but we assure you, it's totally safe to use here in South Africa, right?
Okay.
It is totally safe, and I actually did use that word a few times in America, and I didn't know what I was doing until one of my friends that was American, he actually pulled me aside and he was like,
No.
Right.
No, there's no complete definitive.
Right. When you say like see, that's how you know it's two different worlds. When you come over here and say colors, they automatically thinking, racism shit. You know what I'm saying? But coming from where y'all from, it's the difference. You know what I'm saying? So it's good that I'm watching this and I get to learn the difference of colors here and then when they use the word. So it's always
makeup
dope.
requirement, but colored people are essentially people that are mixed mostly between blacks and whites, although you can also have some Asian in there as well. It's not uncommon.
basically, yes, after all the mixing, they kind of just made a new race.
Sarah Tishkoff, a geneticist at the University of Pennsylvania, did a genetic study that concluded that the Cape Coloreds of South Africa have the highest levels of mixed ancestry in the world.
So yeah, they're literally the children of the earth.
And that other word, Afrikaner, what is that?
Well, long story short, they're descended from the people brought in by the Dutch settlers in the 1600s. Keep in mind though, only about 40% of Afrikaners are directly Dutch descended, and the rest are mostly German and French.
Dutch and Afrikaans are about 90 to 95% mutually intelligible. South Africa has about 35 indigenous languages, but 11 official languages.
Anyway, these 11 languages are divided into 5 families.
I know about
and
Venda.
of the languages, English is the preferred language of the intercommunication between all peoples. And most South Africans are fluent in at least 2 or 3 languages.
You with English and Afrikaans, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Is it kind of like really appreciated when a black South African sees a white South African speaking their language?
Oh, it absolutely is, and that's something that I have now mastered. We are taught Xhosa in school, for example. It isn't to the degree that Afrikaans is taught. You don't really become fluent, like I can understand certain things, but not a lot.
Yeah, I think Port Elizabeth was changed to Paipela or something like that. Yeah.
Exactly. You said that good.
That was kind of, that sounded spot on.
Yes, many of the Nguni languages like Zulu and Xhosa have the click sounds.
These clicks were actually borrowed though. See, of the black Africans, the majority are Bantu. Believe it or not, they're not the original inhabitants of South Africa. Archaeological evidence suggested that they migrated somewhere estimated around the 3rd century AD.
The Khoikhoi and San people, often collectively called the Khoisan, make up less than 1% of the population today, and they are the earliest known inhabitants with ancestors dating back somewhere around 100 to 200,000 years, making them speculated to be some of the oldest peoples on Earth. They have the original click languages. Quick history lesson.
Over time, the Bantus came in and dominated with their iron tools and farming practices.
And although they displaced many of the Khoisan, anthropologists and sociologists speculate that there must have been some intermingling because the click consonants were adopted in their languages.
Over a millennium later, the Dutch were first Europeans to come in and establish Cape Town and then brought in their farmers known as Boers.
Meanwhile, hundreds of miles east, Shaka Zulu was unifying most of the Nguni tribes in the early 19th century and drove out many of the rival tribes like the Matabele, Makololo, and the Fengu. This was
Heard of
known as the
Matabele, heard of that, of course.
or the Great Crushing and Displacement.
Enter the British. This is where the story gets really complicated, so here's a quick cutaway to help.
I'm taking Cape Town while the Netherlands has problems in Europe.
Well, I'm just gonna go run away then and make my own republics in the north.
And I like when they do this, man. You know what I'm saying? They, like I said, they put their own little comedic sense of humor to it. But they're really doing their research, bro. Make sure all the information is accurate. And, you know what I'm saying, just creating these little skits so people can understand it. Because I'm pretty sure there's children who watch this video, too. But it's super dope, man, that they do that, man. Shout out to them at Geography Now.
Get out! You're not even from this continent. Make me. Oh, I'll make you. Oh, hey!
Bollocks! There's like a ton of gold and diamonds in your new Republic areas. Move over.
Hell no. Yeah, there's a lot more that goes into that, but basically it was a chain of weird multi-leveled, multi-party, multi-ethnic battles and subjugation.
In addition to the countless native Bantus killed in wars, there were two Boer wars between the British and Afrikaners, which led to 10% of the white Afrikaner population being killed. So you had one European power subjugating another European group on a continent neither were native to, all dealing with the natives.
So, in a nutshell,
I want the land.
I was here centuries before you. I was here over a millennium before you.
Seriously, are we really doing this? In any case, after the country gained independence in 1910 as a union and fully sovereign in 1931, it underwent a controversial period of apartheid, or aparthood, in 1948 all the way up to 1994.
This system essentially divided peoples by racial lines and put strict laws that were obviously racist and not like, equivalent to, certain extreme factions of microaggression culture that blames pretty much everything on racism. I mean, like, literally, it was actually written, approved, and enacted in legal policy racist.
Under the homeland system, most of the black population was concentrated in the ethno-states called Bantustans, where only 13% of the land was reserved for the majority of the black populace to have property in.
Rules and services were different for colored people as well, and the Asian minorities. It was very complicated and often arbitrarily drawn. Some of the colored people were allowed in parliament in the 70s and some weren't. Some minorities were labeled in the same group as coloreds, while some, like the Lebanese, Taiwanese, Koreans, Japanese, they all shared actually the same classification level for whites. It was confusing and weird, yeah.
Eventually, after a number of factors pressured them, apartheid ended with full democratization for blacks in 1994, and that's when things got very incredibly tense.
See, in Africa, a transition of power like that usually goes one of two ways. One, a spiteful uprising from the native black population built on vengeance that seeks to dispose most of the white population and expropriate everything from them. Or, number two, find a way to move forward as one people with a new system built on forgiveness, acknowledging that it will be awkward and difficult, but peace cannot come from a bitter heart.
Today, of course, it's still a very complicated issue, and there's no universal narrative and everyone agrees with, and yes, controversial incidents still occur.
Crime is still high in certain areas due to social stress and poverty, and yes, there's the whole BEE movement thing, which started as a program aimed to integrate the black population into the workforce, but it has a lot of controversial undertones with implementation. I'm sure you could probably say a lot of stuff about that,
yes.
You and the other South Africans.
Then there's the energy crisis or load shedding issue. You'll actually wake up in the morning and you'll get a message on your phone because we have an app that will tell you it's from 6 a.m. to maybe like 2 p.m. you won't have any energy at all.
At least they have an app that warns you.
So. Really?
That's new. That's new. We didn't always have that.
Oh,
that's insane.
They're working on it.
Yes.
But the point is, there's so much stuff. If you guys want to write about it in the comments, if you're from South Africa, I implore you to have a civil discussion, which I know on YouTube is almost impossible. But
I don't know.
That's
Watch
true.
the movie Invictus if you want to get an idea on how it started.
Oh, and speaking of Invictus, let's move on to a lighter note. Let's talk about the sports. Here's Art with
the Springboks. I know them for sure. Rugby.
Hey guys, it's me and Tarchin. We're back. All right, I got to put Tarchin down so we can start. Specifically rugby. The national team, the Springboks, have...
Shout out to all my rugby fans out there. The Springboks. That was the first, when I first started reacting to rugby videos, it was about the Springboks, bro. South Africa Springboks. It was always about them. They got some dogs on there. Their history, them going against New Zealand over the years, goes back over 100 years, bro. Biggest rivalry in rugby. Shout out to South Africa, man. Shout out to them, man. For real. Some videos I've seen from them, straight dominance, bro. Dominate.
Won the World Cup 3 times, tied with New Zealand. In fact, South Africa is one of only 2 countries that has hosted the soccer, rugby, and cricket World Cups. In fact, they are actually the only African country to host the Soccer World Cup so far. Fun fact, South Africans are actually one of the only countries that, like us Americans, also call football soccer. Cheers to you guys. Soccer! Makes no sense, but we're together in our wrongness. Otherwise, cricket is probably the 3rd most popular sport, and their national team, the Proteas, usually ranks in the world's top 10 best teams. Otherwise, at the Olympics, they've done pretty well in the swimming and athletics department, racking up 26 gold medals so far. Gold is better than silver. They've also been tennis powerhouses as well. Johan Creek won 2 Australian Grand Slam titles in the 80s. That's a big deal. In certain areas, you might find a touch of Dutch with things like korfball. Also originating in South Africa is ringball, which is basically another variation of korfball. Ukske is a traditional Afrikaner sport similar to horseshoes in which you have to knock over a peg on the ground from a distance. And many of the native peoples have their own style of martial arts. The most renowned probably being the Nuni stick fighting, or Donga, performed mostly by the Zulu or the Alt. I can't do it. That was horrible. Both set people.
That was better, yeah.
Okay, and that's it for me. I'm gonna get the out of here. I'll see ya.
Thank you, Art.
And South Africa is also really well known for its surfing. And if you ever
I'm appreciating this history lesson, I ain't gonna lie to y'all.
You can go to J-Bet. Yes, exactly. That's what would happen.
So, as we mentioned, South Africa has a huge diversity of ethno-linguistic people groups. We already made a video explaining about some of them, but let's just quickly cover the main ones. First, you have the Nguni group. This group includes the cousins Zulus, Xhosas, and the Ndebele peoples.
Zulus are probably the most well-known worldwide. You may have seen images of their traditional animal skin warrior attire or weaponry and dance ceremonies for the men. Women often wear those wide, conical isicholo hats on special occasions.
For the Xhosa, they are kind of like the pacifist siblings of the Zulus. Their traditional garbs have those black and white patterns with beads and red ochre dyed blanket coverings.
Ndebele are like the artists, known for their colorful patterns, painted houses. The symbols are unique to each family. And they are also the bead experts, and they'll flaunt heavy beaded neck and leg ornaments on special occasions. Finally, the Swazi people are basically cousins to the people of the Eswatini, known for honoring their kings with mplanga or reed dance.
Then we have the Sotho group, made up of the Sotho, the Tswana, and the Sepedi peoples.
They're all relatives to the people of Lesotho and Botswana, and many of them are mountain people. You can see lots of them riding horses and wearing mokorotlo hats and Basotho blankets as temperatures are generally colder with high elevations.
The Tswana people have 8 major clans, and they love the color blue, especially with the Letishi cloth.
The Songa are known for their many initiation rituals and electric dance style or Songa disco.
The Venda people are some of the most isolated groups in the north, famous for their natural medicines, and the Masangwe, or bare knuckle fist fight sport, which people use to kind of like monitor.
If y'all want me to do a reaction to this, bare knuckle fit, if y'all want me to do a reaction to this, y'all let me know in the comments.
Solve disputes.
Now for non-Africans, we already explained about the white South Africans. The Afrikaners and the English are unique in the way that they kind of developed their own breakaway Africanized culture from the European ancestors.
What are you, by the way?
I'm English.
Oh, okay.
I am an English through and through.
The colored community has always kind of had a unique status as the somewhat marginalized but not as marginalized group. They've always kind of had to figure out who they were since they technically didn't fully belong anywhere.
Then you have the Asian community, the largest groups being of the Cape Malays and the Indians, brought over during colonial times.
I never knew that.
Servitude. The Boerkaap neighborhood of Cape Town is essentially the Malay Quarter, and today their culture is a fascinating mixture that blends elements of Dutch and Asian.
In fact, most of them actually speak Afrikaans as their first language, and the Malay language is almost all but gone.
The Indian community was brought in by the British, and Durban has one of the highest population of Indians outside of India. Most were brought over from West and South India, including Gandhi, who spent 21 years living in the area.
Whew, yeah, that was a lot, and that wasn't even scratching the surface. There's so many other people groups we didn't even talk about. But in any case, here's Hannah to explain a little bit more about the few things that South Africa's people have collectively as one entity, eternity. You get the point. Hannah's culture segment. Random Hannah.
Woo! South Africa! Guys, get a random Hannah shirt at geographynow.com. So, alright, obviously there is no such thing as a single type of South African, but in the end they are still one country that moves forward to the best of their ability. For one, many of the native ethnic groups, whether Zulu or Venda, follow the lobola system, in which the groom must pay a dowry in cattle to the bride's family. I love the countries where they pay people with cows.
Remember Rwanda?
Yes, I freaked out. I was like, what? There is literally a Lobolo app available now to help relieve the stress of figuring how many cattle you owe.
There's an app for everything, bro. That's crazy.
In the 60s and 70s. It was sort of a social commentary movement that depicted the impoverished black communities of South Africa to move towards the end of apartheid. In addition, you will notice there are so many different architecture styles in South Africa. You have everything from the massive thatched fortified dome huts of Zulu to the Cape Dutch style homes inspired from the Dutch with flat crow-stepped gable roofs. South Africans have also been front runners in many inventions, discoveries, and innovations. For example, the automatic pool cleaner, the CAT scan, putty adhesive, the smart lock safety syringe, the world's first heart transplant happened here, the yellow fever vaccine, and they have the biggest optical telescope in the southern hemisphere, and so on. What else?
That's
Fun
crazy
fact,
to
being
know.
South African means knowing the difference between now, and just now.
Yes, thank you, Jay. South Africa has also been the location shot of many feature films and TV shows. Everything from the debuting film The Gods Must Be Crazy,
Never heard of
Academy
that.
Award winner Sotsi, which I actually
think I heard of that.
last night. Amazing movie. Academy Award nominated
District 9.
and Chappie. And of course, Mandela Long Walk to Freedom.
What's your takeaway from South African cinema?
There's some amazing comedy, which I feel like people don't talk about that much. I've been watching a lot of Leon Schuster movies. Yeah. And finally, the one thing that unifies all South Africans is Heritage Day, in which people are encouraged to wear their traditional costumes and express their background, and everyone joins in a bride together, no matter who you are. Usually, the festivals include an abundance of music. So to expound more on that, here's Keith. Blah, blah, blah. Wait, Keith isn't here. How's he going to be in this video?
There he is.
Hannah, I'm in Florida, and guess what? You can't cancel me. Anyways, South Africa, they have so much going on. Even their national anthem is sung in 5 different languages. Basically, from the beginning, traditional vocals were used, along with the marimba, the uhadi, the kora, and other assorted hand drums and harps. The first style of music to really take over the world, probably Marabi. Now, Marabi started out in the slums of Johannesburg, and Marabi is a style of music that is basically underground swing jazz. From there, world-renowned artists such as Soweto Gospel Choir and
just checked out Soweto, man. That was dope, man. Shout out to them.
Ladysmith Black Mambazo have put South Africa on the map. Every South African will definitely know Johnny Clegg, the white Zulu who wrote songs in Zulu to criticize apartheid. Today, South Africa is known predominantly for its popularity in house music, and more specifically for the subgenres of Guam and I'm a piano. You guys told us to definitely mention those styles of music. Some other South African artists that you may be familiar with are Diane Wood for their crazy hip-hop, South African-y fusion style of music.
Okay.
You guys might know Synth Peter, who I think has one of the greatest songs ever written. It's called Doof Doof. You should all go chant the Doof Doof. Yeah, that's it for me. Hope you guys had a good one. And back to you, Paul.
Thank you, Keith. All right, so this is the part where we talk about some of the famous people of South Africa, and here's South African geography, Kolo, to explain.
South Africa is as talented as it is diverse. A few notable South Africans that you geography peeps might be familiar with include Charlize Theron, John Carney, Trevor Noah, Sholto Copley, Gugu Mbatha.
Now, Charlize Theron, I had no idea. No idea about that one.
Might be familiar with include Charlize Theron, John Carney, Trevor Noah, Sholto Copley, Gugu Mbatha, Demi Lee Peters, Zozibenzi Tunzi, and last but not least, business magnate Elon Musk. There are a number of South Africans who have excelled in different fields across the decades. These are but just a few South Africans you geography peeps might be familiar with.
You learn something new every day.
All right, and with that, we got to move on to the next segment. This video is getting kind of long. Catherine, you ready?
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about the Friends of South Africa.
Alright, so So South Africa may click, who's in and who's close? Well, it really depends on where you want to start on the globe, but put in a nutshell.
As a member of the Commonwealth of Nations, of course, South Africa has always had many ties to their Anglophone counterparts. New Zealand and Australia are kind of like the Southern Hemisphere trio that dominate the Tropic of Capricorn. These three have been trading and assisting each other for centuries and have friendly competitions. There was a bit of tension in the past, though, since many white South Africans choose to move to these countries in fear of policies they think might target them in South Africa. It got to the point where an Australian cabinet member even referred to them as refugees, which caused some backlash.
Damn.
But apart from that, overall, these three get along great. South Africa is also a member of the BRICS nations, the Association of Emerging Economies, being Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Together, these five have about a quarter of the world's land and about 40% of the world's population. They maintain a non-interference policy with mutual benefit plans. As a former British and Dutch colony, obviously the UK and Netherlands have cordial ties. Many South Africans visit or live in these countries. Interestingly, though, despite a heavy usage of the Afrikaans language, South Africa has rejected all offers to join the Dutch Language Union, and today stands in special partner status along with Indonesia. If you ask who South Africa's best friends are, though, you'd probably have to head a little closer home. Today, despite being fully independent sovereign nations, South Africans usually don't even see Lesotho or Eswatini as separate countries. South Africa even has more Sotho and Swazi people than the entire population of each country. Same goes for the Tswana people of Botswana. So they get these countries. In addition, Zimbabwe, Mozambique, and Namibia are also in the core group. They share a lot of the same ethnic groups like the Shona, Tsonga, and Khoisan. Granted, yes, there was a little bit of tension with Zimbabwe when they called for economic sanctions against South Africa during apartheid, and South Africa was pissed that Zimbabwe was hosting guerrilla rebels, and they didn't really like Zimbabwe's expropriation laws that kind of kicked out almost their entire white population, but nonetheless, they have good relations. As for Namibia, they actually were a part of South Africa until gaining independence in 1990, so there's a significant historical tie. Today, a huge portion of Namibia's economy is tied with South Africa. They even accept the South African rand as legal tender, and overall, they just really like each other when they meet up.
In conclusion, I think you should take it away, Catherine. I'm out.
So South Africa, I feel, is super unique in the way that we connect with one another. The words that we use, the lingo, just everything is very different to anything I've ever experienced in another country. I feel like South Africa is just like Fynbos in the way that it's not seen anywhere else in the world.
I like that. It's like Fynbos, nowhere else on Earth. And stay tuned, Spain is coming up next.
Man, shout out to everybody at Geography Now, man, about South Africa. That was very informative. A lot of things I had no idea about, especially some of the lingo, like the word colors. Like if you say colors out here, it's gonna mean a completely different meaning in the most negative way. But out there, it means a whole nother thing, you know what I'm saying? It's things you learn, man. That's why you gotta take time to read and learn things, bro. You know what I'm saying? Don't just always go off reaction. You know what I'm saying? Because you're gonna look like a damn fool if you don't know what you're talking about. But yeah, man, super dope. Very informative. I enjoyed it a lot, man. It just makes me want to visit South Africa even more, man. Get in tune with the people, the culture, the dancing, the food, the sports. I definitely want to see a rugby game out there in Springboks. Definitely want to see a game out there, man. Yeah, a few of y'all have mentioned in the comments that I should come visit and go to a game, man. That is on my bucket list, bro. On my bucket list. I definitely want to go. But shout out to all my people in South Africa. Much love and respect to all y'all out there, man. I appreciate y'all for telling me to check this video out. Very informative. I enjoyed it thoroughly, man. Shout out to everybody, man, for real. But yo, I hope you enjoyed the reaction to this video. If you enjoyed my reaction, please give me a thumbs up. Subscribe to the Dope Guy Big Dog. Hit the notification bell whenever I upload. Find right here on Snapchat and Instagram right across the bottom screen. Any other videos you may check out, please comment under this video and my other videos, and leave likes and comments on all my videos to help grow the channel, help with the algorithm for sure. Any more videos you may check out, leave a comment in the comment section below. And I got y'all, I'm gonna spin the block. My name is the Dope Guy, and I am out. Yes, sir. Here we go.